Hello, everyone. Hope all is well. We are here today with educational video number 3 in the line of educational videos. And today we're going over very important candles, or candle charts, patterns, whatever you want to call them. For those of you who don't know, candles were created back in the 18th century by a Japanese rice farmer. They did their rice trading in candles. So they go back a long, long way. And like volume kind of is a leading indicator for maybe reversals. Candles tell us a story, okay? It tells us what the buyers and sellers are doing. So the first couple slides we're going to go through here are just basic knowledge on candles in case, you guys are maybe getting, brand new to candles. But so when you see a green candle, okay, and what does that mean? That means the open of the day was at the bottom of the body of the candle, okay? We're not talking about these wicks or shadows, whatever, however you like to call them. So the green candle means that the stock opened up here and closed here, okay? The wicks or shadows are showing us the highs and lows of the day, okay? So this means that at some point, this candle or stock came up to here and then sold off and closed here, okay? So again, the green body indicates that the close of the day was higher than the open, okay? And then obviously opposite of this are the red-bodied candles, okay? And opposite means that the open of the day was here and the stock closed here, giving us the red-bodied candle. And again, we have the high and low wicks or shadows above and below, okay? All right, so now that that's out of the way, let's move on to see, there's many different types of candles, okay? The ones we're going to be talking about today are our favorite, which are the engulfing candles. Well, this is actually a Marabuzo because there is no shadow above or below, but we'll be talking about these and we'll be talking about hammers, okay? So you can see here most bullish, second most bullish, most bearish, second most bearish, okay? So these are the candles we're going to be talking about today, okay? Now, you have other candles like spinning tops or dojis. These are candles, signs of indecision, which they could be more, neutral. But we will say this, that when you do see these at tops or bottoms, 80% of the time they will signal a reversal, okay? So this candle means that there was a battle between the bulls and the bears, and it pretty much ended even, okay? A sign of indecision, okay? So doji, spinning tops, they're cousins, okay? But again, today, we're going to be focusing on these two types of candles, okay? Which again are our favorite, okay? We will also be talking about shooting stars, okay? Those two are shooting stars. They're in obviously the hammer family, okay? So moving on now, we're going to start with the engulfing candles, okay? Engulfing candles are the most bullish and bearish candles, okay? What makes it an engulfing candle? The body of the candle needs to engulf the body of the previous day, okay? This is a green candle, so what does that mean? That means the stock opened here and it closed there, okay? It's not the shadows or wicks. People think sometimes the candles engulfing has to engulf the shadows or wicks. That is not the case. It's body to body, okay? So the candle has to engulf the prior day bodied, okay? So that's very important, okay? You take the wicks or shadows out of it, okay? So in this case, 80% of the time, this setup, this engulfing candle, will result in an up move, okay? 80% of the time. Now, 20% of the time, they don't work. When is that most likely to happen, okay? If a stock is going up and you start to see a bullish engulfing candle at, let's say, a top, well, then 20% of the time, the stock might not continue to go up, okay? When you see these bullish engulfing candles at bottoms or at support, that's when they become 80 or 90% more likely to happen, okay? So that's really important to know as well where you see them, okay? So in this example here, obviously the stock is downtrending, okay? When you see the engulfing candle, 80 to 90% of the time you will see the reversal up, okay? So that's very important, okay? Again, we're not talking about the wicks or the shadows. It's got to be body to body, okay? So that makes the engulfing candle. And then obviously opposite of this is the bearish engulfing candle, okay? What makes it bearish? The color, okay? Which means that the stock opened here and it closed here, okay? Again, body of the candle engulfing the prior dream, okay? It has to be a red engulfing the green, and in the case of the bullish, a green engulfing the red, okay? If it's a red engulfing a red, technically that doesn't make it a bearish engulfing. It's still a powerful setup, okay? And again, 80% of the time, these will result in a down move, okay? When are these more powerful? When you see them at a top of a move or at resistance, okay? The less likelihood these worked were at the bottom of moves. So it's completely opposite, obviously, to the bullish engulfing candle. But nonetheless, these are the most bearish candles, okay? And again, showing the example of the uptrend, okay? You see the bearish engulfing candle, 80 to 90% of the time it will lead to a reversal lower, okay? So again, very important to know that. All right, so that's the engulfing candles. One more slide here to kind of just show some different variations, okay? Here we have a typical a bearish engulfing candle. Okay, again, you don't pay attention to the wicks or shadows. Okay, this is a spinning top. Okay, the red's engulfing a spinning top. Okay, here's another spinning top engulfing a spinning top. Again, the body has to engulf the run. Okay, sometimes, and this is very rare, but it does happen, you might see an engulfing candle, in this case, a bullish engulfing candle, engulf the prior 2, 3, or even sometimes 4 days of candles, okay? These setups are extremely powerful, okay? When you see that, okay? Here's another example of a bearish engulfing candle engulfing the prior 3 days of green, okay? Again, it's not the wick, it's the bodies, okay? So these setups can be very powerful, okay? They don't happen all the time, but when you do see these, you need to pay attention to those setups, okay? All right, so moving on from the engulfing are the hammers. Hammers, again, second favorite, second most powerful. Hammers are a little bit more work involved to reading them. Not much, but okay. So the main thing that we need to know about the hammers, okay? Number one, what constitutes a hammer, okay? What constitutes a hammer is that the wick or the shadow needs to be at least 1.5 times the length of the body, okay? So this obviously is a hammer. It looks like a hammer. If we have a setup like this with a body like that and a small wick like that, that is not a hammer, okay? The wick or the shadow needs to be at least 1 to 1.5 times the length of the body, okay? Now, the other thing is that hammers, I don't care if they're upright or, if you have an inverted hammer at the bottom. If you see these at tops, they're shooting stars. That doesn't matter to me. A hammer to me is a hammer, okay? The color of the body of the candle doesn't matter to me, really, unless it could be an engulfing candle as well, okay? Maybe it's engulfing a red, okay, like this. So now it's not only doubling up as a bullish hammer, but also as a bullish engulfing candle, okay? These can be very powerful when you see those. But for the most part, the colors don't bother me either, okay? What really matters is the hammer, then the most important thing, where you see them, okay? So in this example, the stock is heading lower, okay? When you see these hammers at the bottom of a move, and it could be at support, it could be at a bottom Bollinger Band. If you guys follow Bollinger Bands, 80% of the time, this will result in a reversal, okay? 80% of the time, okay? So the most important thing is where you see these, okay? Again, if you see these hammers at the bottom of a move or at support, 80%, you can hope that it'll reverse if you're playing calls in this example, okay? If you see hammers going sideways and the stock is going sideways, they're not going to be as powerful or as helpful, okay? You really need to pay attention to these if a stock is going down or up, which I'll get to in a minute. So you need to remember that, okay? It's more important where you see them, okay, even more than the color of the candle, okay? So in this case, this would be a bullish hammer because it's at the bottom of a down move, okay? So then, of course, opposite this would be the inverted hammer, or also called a shooting star, okay? Love shooting stars. These are extremely powerful, extremely accurate at con tops or reversals, okay? Again, the stock's going up, okay? You see an inverted hammer or shooting star, 80% of the time it's going to result in a reversal, okay? Again, remember about the wick, what the length means, okay? If you see a candle like this, that is not a shooting star, okay? Why are these powerful? Because what does this mean, okay? What created this wick? This means at some point, the body of this candle was up here, okay? At some point, this candle looked like that, okay? And then the sellers came in and pounced on the buyers, which forced it down to make that candle. It means that the sellers won the battle, okay? So these are very powerful at times. You have to pay attention to these. Do they always work? No, nothing's guaranteed, but 80% of the time these do result. It moves lower, okay? So you really have to pay attention to these shooting stars, okay? And here's another example of a shooting star at a top, right? Okay. Traded these many times, been very successful many times. Trading shooting stars, especially if you get a pivot lower, you know, or maybe you might even get a bearish engulfing candle the next day and a pivot lower. Those are extremely powerful setups, okay? So you have to pay attention to these shooting stars, okay? All right. So moving on, before the final slides is going to be, I love using this illustration on the Zoom because it really shows how powerful what these candles can do, okay? Now, here's the great thing about charts and anything really that involves technical analysis. Any chart you go on, if you want to test something, okay, you can go back in the past and test it. That's the great thing about charts. The past history is still on the chart, okay? So anything you're testing, technical analysis-wise, you can go back on the chart and see how they did, okay? So you can see these are already highlighted here. There is a hammer, right? Okay, and one other thing to mention too, you might say, well, there's a wick or a shadow on top. That only matters as if they're the same length, which would make it a spinning top. But if you have a candle like that one here, where I'm showing you, let's say there was a small wick and then a longer wick, you always go with the longer wick, okay? So that's really important because very rare are you going to see a hammer with no shadow on top, okay? 90% of the time, maybe even higher, you will, okay? You're going to notice a lot of these hammers have shadows on the top or on the bottom if it's inverted, okay? But regardless, that hammer at the top of the move led to a reversal down, okay? This hammer here, again, there is a small shadow on top. At the bottom of a move led to a reversal higher, okay? Again, if you just look at these on any chart, okay, you will see what happens when they show up, okay? Again, stock going down, hammer, it goes out the reverses, okay? Here's even the hammer that's not highlighted, okay? And then moving on to the engulfing candles, okay? Clearly we see that red engulfing candle, okay? Then it's funny because in this case, this was at the bottom of a move, so this would have been one of the times where it might not have worked, but it still did, okay? We can see that engulfing candle and then boom, right down, right? Led to a bullish engulfing candle and then right back up, okay? Bullish engulfing candle, right back up, okay? Here, and this is a good thing, this is not, we don't have anybody on the call now, but my question would be is, why would this not be a bullish engulfing candle? Okay, it's not a bullish engulfing candle. Why? Because the green is not engulfing the red. That's a green candle. It's a green engulfing green. Still a very powerful setup, but technically it's not a bullish engulfing, okay? But regardless, we saw what happened there. The stock went up, and then we got a hammer here, and then the stock started going down. Okay, so this shows you on a chart, Zoom chart, how these setups play out, okay? You have to pay attention to these, okay? This is all part of the Delphi strategy, incorporating candles, because they tell a story, okay? And the more you practice, the more charts you look at, the better you're going to get at this. Trust me when I tell you that, okay? The more charts you can look at during the week, the better you're going to get at identifying the candles, okay? Go on any chart, go look in the back in the past, look for the candles, look for the hammers, look for the engulfing candles, okay? Look, there's another engulfing candle right there. When happened, the stock went up the next day. Look for those candles, and you'd be shocked at how often or accurate they work, okay? So that's it for today's educational video on candles. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Look out for the continued educational courses coming out. We have more coming out after this. So, any questions, just let us know. But hopefully you guys all enjoyed these educational videos. And trust us when we say they will help you, okay? So that's it for us today. Always good luck trading and have a great day. Take care.